Good morning. Welcome back to the show on what is a delightfully warm Tuesday morning. If you haven't been outside yet, you can go outside without a jacket. I promise. It's that warm. It's -2 earlier. It's just gorgeous. Spring is starting to pop up ever so slowly. Happy to have as my guest this morning on Impact, Jasmeen Toor from the Canadian Mental Health Association, or CMHA. We're just talking about acronyms, CMHA. She's the marketing manager and community education strategist. Did you get that? Marketing manager, community education strategist.
Absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so pleased you're here. I know we're doing a project right now, which was sort of the impetus to get you on the radio to talk about it. But before we sort of dive into the big event that's happening, I guess it's tomorrow night, Valentines. Yes. Yeah, Valentine's Day painting evening at the Unifor building.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that hall, by the way. Thank you to Steve and the entire crew over there for letting us use it. It's probably my favorite place to do painting workshops. We'll talk about that in a bit, but let's talk about you. How long have you been in Fort McMurray?
I've been here a very long, about 4 months now.
Are you serious?
Absolutely, yeah. So I moved here in September from BC. I was born and raised in Abbotsford, BC, which is a little east of Vancouver. So it's quite a ways away from here, but I lived in Calgary for a few years getting my education, and then the road led me to Fort McMurray.
Were you raised in Canada?
I absolutely was.
So you were born in Canada,
and raised
but
in
your
Abbotsford.
parents you're probably second generation Canadian?
Yes, I am. Yeah, my parents are born and raised in India, in the Punjab region of India.
Marvelous.
And then they migrated over to Canada.
So you were in Abbotsford. You went to university?
Yes, I went to SAIT in Calgary. So it was all related to marketing and events. And then I moved back home to Abbotsford and worked out of the Vancouver area doing event coordinating and wedding planning and all bridal shows and all that related to marketing. So, and then finally I've been wanting to get my foot in the door in the nonprofit sector for quite a while. And the opportunity presented itself, and then I came up to here.
I'm really curious. If you go to school to learn about event planning,
yes,
do you plan events?
We do.
Dumb question.
We absolutely do. We study the logistics behind of it, what goes into coordinating the event, the liability issues, the legal issues, and then marketing, which is there's so much to learn about marketing, whether it's viral marketing, print media, or social media, or what have you. So we study all of that, and then we coordinate campus events, and then we move out to city events. Yeah, so it's a lot.
What's
really
the most stressful event you ever planned?
Weddings. Like, there is, like, by a landslide. Like, weddings, because there's just so many people involved, so many opinions, and so much on the stake that it has to go right. So weddings have definitely been stressful, and I've had some very interesting situations present themselves during weddings, and then having to just react right away and deal with it so that no one knows that there's issues behind the scenes is definitely the most stressful part.
Now, as a general rule, you get into a conflict situation, a decision needs to be made. Who gets to make it, the bride or the groom?
Definitely the bride. I think we all know the answer to that. Definitely the bride.
Man.
Or the mother of the bride, actually.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've done weddings. How about on the community side? An example of something that you've coordinated that's of a major scale?
Definitely I worked with Choices Markets in BC. So we did events in Vancouver all the way to Kelowna in various cities. And it was very intense because I was working out of the head office. So we were doing events, for example, Halloween. There would be like 3 or 4 events going on at the same time in 3 different cities. So making sure everything's in place for that it's a hard task, but it's definitely fulfilling after it's all said and done.
How do you manage, and I'm asking this because I struggled with this part because I was an event planner as well for many years. How do you manage the inherent stress that comes with, we put all this planning together, excuse me, that was my cup. You put all this planning together, and then everything has to somehow magically work within a 1 or 2 day time frame. How do you manage the stress?
It's definitely not magic. It's having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and making sure that all your ducks are in a row leading up to the event, and then just realizing that the show must go on regardless. So if you have to make some changes, it's not the end of the world. You got to just keep going at it and making sure the show comes together. And then having that passion for events is definitely what helps as well. Because I truly believe that the most precious gift someone can give is their time. And you have to realize that so many people, whether it's a family event or it's a public event, people are coming out and they're giving you a piece of their life. And you have to make that worthwhile for them. And just realizing that and giving them something worthwhile to check out is definitely the motivator. Yeah.
You're relatively new to Fort McMurray, 4 months in. Jasmeen Toor is my guest this morning from CMHA. But based on what you've seen so far in Fort McMurray, so you've kind of lived through the crazy Christmas season.
Yes.
And perhaps seen and possibly attended a number of events. What is your sense of the capacity in the community to deliver really good community events?
I think that this city is kind of known for their events. Before I moved over here, someone had told me that if you're going to Fort McMurray, you should realize that time stands still. And I beg to differ in being here because there's always events going on, and the social profit sector especially, they're always collaborating and putting on these events that are just so spectacular that I think that the city should be actually known for that.
Let's talk about CMHA. You've been at the organization for a number of months now, and a growing team over there.
Very fast.
What kind of events? I know that's only a part of your portfolio, but what kind of things are you up to?
So, well, right now we're working on our March Mullets campaign. We are doing our Valentines Day event tomorrow.
I thought there was a law against mullets.
Nope, we're bringing them back. So it's a fundraising event. We've partnered with the Teachers Union in Fort McMurray to host that. We're working on our charity jam and some really high-profile names that will be coming to town, which I cannot release yet. But it's going to be some really exciting stuff coming up this year.
In the landscape of the CMHA, what are your marquee major events in the calendar? I know Charities Jam is one of them, but are there others?
Absolutely. So Charity Jam is our biggest event of the year. March Mullets is huge. We also work heavily during Mental Health Week, which is the first week of May. So that's on a national level. And also Mental Illness Awareness Week in October, where we do events every single day, whether it's our annual walk, or in just a variety of campaigns and events that we do throughout those weeks is a huge part of our portfolio. Do
you have any sense of the number of people that the CMHA touches in some way in a given year? And that's a tough question.
That's a really tough question. I don't have the exact number, but I know it's in the thousands for sure. Because we reach not only through events and social media and marketing campaigns, but also through the programs that we put on, like anger management or suicide prevention training. And then we also have our consumer advocate that works one-on-one with clients. We have staff members that are now in Janvier or going to Mackay. We also have staff members working full-time in the school boards and then working with classrooms and students. So it's hard to determine the exact number, but it's all the age demographics you can imagine.
When you were back before you came here in Abbotsford and anticipating moving to Fort McMurray that had been through what is the largest natural disaster in Canadian history and probably having a sense of the mental health impacts of that, what was that like? What was your anticipation coming in?
Coming in, I had no idea what to expect, but I knew that my motivator was after seeing the effects of the wildfire. Living in Abbotsford at that time, we still saw the effects in our air quality, which were pretty drastic.
Really?
It wasn't just a slight smog. It was the whole city was just covered in, I don't know what that term is, but that debris, ash,
and the smoke.
And the smoke, and that lasted days, and that had me thinking, like, what is going on in this town of Fort McMurray that I've never heard of? So that's when I started researching it and seeing the effects of it, and that's what motivated me to come up here. So when people ask me, like, what was it like coming into Fort Mac, I usually tell them the story of my first day on the job. So it was in September, and I, of course, was lost. On my first day in on the job, I called Christine and said, I think I'm here. And she said, stay right there. I'm going to meet you up there. And right away, we left, and we went in the schools. We went to Mitchell's. We partnered with Stacks. We were with Some Other Solutions all day. And that's exactly how every day has kind of been. It's community partnerships. It's going out in the community. We do so much. And now I have the privilege of sharing that with everyone in terms of media and social media and all that. So it's a really exciting time. to be in Fort McMurray.
I wonder if that sense of collaboration that, frankly, I think has just exploded in the last 5 years is the same in other communities. Or is Fort McMurray something a little bit extra special?
I think Fort McMurray is extra special because I was not expecting how much, especially the social profit sector, collaborates amongst themselves. It's amazing to be a part of. Everyone's willing to help, lend a hand, and join in on campaigns. It's great to see, and I haven't experienced anything like that living in BC.
Do you know why we call it the social profit sector? Do you know the history of that?
I don't.
So that's a term that popped up at the very first Convergence YMM conference, which was the very first time the sector came together.
Yeah.
And talked to community leaders, government leaders, and the conversation at that time was around what we call ourselves, the non-profit sector, which is the normal term in other communities.
Yeah.
And somehow it just wasn't sitting well with anybody. And this idea of social profit came up at that conference. And then all of a sudden, in former Mayor Melissa Blake's speeches, she was saying social profit. And when our MLA was speaking, said social profit. It just became our language. And I was at the National United Way Conference in Toronto last year. And there was a keynote speaker who used the term.
Wow.
And I thought, what? and as it turns out, he picked it up when he was here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That's the background on that. My guest is Jasmeen Toor from the Canadian Mental Health Association. She is the marketing manager and community education strategist. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about an event that's coming up tomorrow night. It's going to be fun, I promise. And we'll give you all the details in just a moment. You're listening to Impact. It's a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, YMM Magazine, and our friends right here at 91.1 The Bridge. And welcome back to the show. I'm recovering this morning after some fierce carpet bowling. We got trampled by the seniors yesterday. And you know, Jasmeen, I absolutely suck at carpet bowling.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook that your son's really good.
Dylan turned out to be the phenom. You know, which is fascinating. I don't know what they call it. He was the guy that shot last. He was the anchor, and they put me first just to get me out of the way. Oh, it was fun. It was fun. I'd do that again.
Yeah.
It was good mental health.
Great. Yeah, it's self-care.
Absolutely. No, it was really good. Jasmeen is my guest, Jasmeen Toor from CMHA, getting ready for a big event coming up tomorrow evening on Valentines night at the Unifor building in the big hall they have. Is a beautiful space. And talk about it. What is the event? And how can people participate?
Absolutely. So the event is a Valentine's Night of Painting hosted by yourself, Russell Thomas, our local celebrity. And it's going to entail a night of painting, music. There's going to be champagne and roses and a chocolate buffet put on by Stacks. So it's a great way to just get out in the community and interact. And it's a great way to segue mental health into the daily lives of our community members. So it's a win-win.
These workshops, minus environments where there happens to be alcohol involved, it becomes very therapeutic.
Yes.
And what I've found, having done many of them, is that there are periods of time when people are so still and present. And then other times when these miraculously beautiful conversations strike up.
Absolutely.
And I think the opportunity for tomorrow, and from a maybe a couple's health perspective, what a lovely way to celebrate Valentine's Day with your honey.
Exactly. It's going to be a beautiful night. I mean, it's for a great cause, and that's a little bit of a biased opinion, but it is for a great cause, and it's going to be an evening of relaxation. It's a way of self-care. When you create, you release these endorphins because you're creating this masterpiece on your own, and of course being led by you. And it's such a great thing for your mental health to come out and support. So if you are interested, our tickets are up on Eventbrite, and they're available until tomorrow noon. So make sure you get them before then.
So when you say Eventbrite, what do people need to do to get to Eventbrite?
You just Google Eventbrite, or you can go www.eventbrite/Valentines with Russell.
Oh, I'm on Eventbrite.
You are.
Oh, very, very cool. So music, a chocolate, what did you call it?
Chocolate buffet put on by
There's no
Stacks.
calories in that, is there?
We'll pretend there's not.
Oh, okay. And then
champagne,
champagne
and painting and music.
So I thought I'd share. I don't normally share what we're going to paint, but I think it's appropriate.
I think so.
And a good friend of mine, a client, Robbie Capard, was in my studio a number of weeks ago picking up a painting, and Robbie and his wife Kim lost their home in the fire. Along with many members of their family. I think it's staggering the amount of loss in that particular family. And one of the things that Robbie has done after the fire as a way of mental health is he's taken up photography. And he's invested in some amazing gear, and he was, I think he was up in the Fort Chip area and shot this beautiful picture of an owl. Like it's a staggeringly beautiful owl. And so I asked Robbie if he'd let me paint that. And so I think we should paint that.
I think we should too.
You know, I think he's found some real healing through photography, and he was thrilled to find out that we'd like to paint his picture.
Absolutely.
And people love owls.
Absolutely.
They're
love stunning. Owls. And there's so much you could do color-wise and everything. Yeah. Oh, it'll be good.
And it's important to note, if you're hearing this and you've never been to one of my painting workshops before, it's very, very different than the traditional incorporated paint night concept. And in other words, it isn't you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you come up with a painting that kind of looks the same. It's at the end of the night, everybody's painting is completely and utterly different.
Yeah, definitely unique.
And almost everybody that goes through the experience finds it incredibly relaxing, and they leave, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Yes.
You know, it's not about the product, it's about the journey.
Absolutely. And that's the feedback we got when we did ours in October. And the feedback we got from back from that was just absolutely amazing. Everyone was like, when are we doing this again? Like, this was such a great way for them to relax with their friends, but also self-care at the same time.
So what are the details in terms of the time? I should know, but I don't. Tell me when I'm supposed to be there. No, I'm just kidding. When should the people arrive tomorrow?
Before 7 p.m. So we were aiming to start the event at 7 p.m. sharp.
Okay.
And come a little bit early so you can sip on your champagne and enjoy the chocolate before you settle down and get started.
Okay, so guys, if you're listening and you haven't figured out what am I doing for my wife on Valentine's Day, boy, I can't imagine her reaction if you told her, honey, we're going to a Valentine's Day paint night. I think you would be in her good books for a long time.
We've done all the hard planning for you.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
All you got to do is show up.
So let's review. We've got painting. That's going to be fun. We're going to have what are you doing for music? We're just going to have some beautiful jazz music playing.
Absolutely, romantic music.
Hugely romantic. And we've got the chocolate buffet from the folks at Stacks.
Yes. And we've got champagne and roses.
That's a combination worth.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better.
It's fantastic. So the cost?
The cost is $80.
Awesome. And per couple?
Per couple, tickets are sold out.
Okay.
We had a limited discount deal for the couples tickets, but they've been sold out.
Man, so there you go. That's a recipe for success and some marvelous couples mental health. But you know what? If you want to come and you're not a couple, that's okay too. We encourage everybody to come out. It is a fundraiser for Canadian Mental Health Association, one of the most important social profit organizations in our community, especially post-fire, because you're offering so much support to people.
Absolutely.
And we're going to take another break and come back and talk a little bit more about the different supports. And I'm fascinated. The second half of your title is Community Education Strategist.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask about that. You're listening to Impact. My guest this morning is Jasmeen Toor from CMHA, and this is a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, who are, thank you, Matt. Matt, he's so... I was going to say predictable. What's that? No. Consistent
Reliable.
in being here with us. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And YMM Magazine, there's a great article featuring Michelle Toner in the Alberta Winter Games edition that's out right now. And really appreciate all the folks here at 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to the show on a brilliantly warm Tuesday morning. You know what? You can go outside with just like a sweater on right now. It's awesome. I'm actually hoping, Jasmeen, that my squirrel comes out to play. Haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. It's been too frightfully cold.
You have to leave out some nuts and
He
hope.
loves his nuts. I was visiting a family, Randy and his wife in Grayling Terrace, and they have this amazing relationship with their neighborhood squirrel. And they've got some interesting nut thing jerry-rigged where the nut has to go through hoops and whatever to get to the nuts, and you just sit there and watch it through the window. That's mental health at its best. That was so cool.
I bet.
Speaking of mental health, I know a part of your mandate and your job with mental health is community education.
Yes.
But what does that mean? What kind of when we say educating the community about mental health, how does that manifest itself in your world?
That's actually a really common question, but I'm glad you asked. The reason that we implemented community education into my role is we can't no longer just wait for people to reach out to us for mental health resources or to learn about mental health. We have to be more proactive and really push our agenda of mental health without having people reach out to us, whether that's with educating with social media campaigns. So it shows up on their Facebook or their Twitter, Instagram. For example, last week we emphasized Eating Disorder Awareness Week. This week we're talking about Sexual and Reproductive Health Awareness Week. So we're educating people through social media, also talking about it during events and bridging that gap in between so people don't have to reach out for mental health education. It's kind of provided to them. And also that with combined with programs and courses that we put on at CMHA as well. So that's the community education portion of my job.
From an organizational perspective, how do you feel about big campaigns like the Bell Let's Talk Wellness? Is it a day?
It is a day, yes.
A day. Like that really
It's
got
huge.
high profile again this year.
Absolutely. And it is a national campaign, so it's coast to coast, but the funds do come back to our communities because Bell Let's Talk funds grants for initiatives or campaigns or programs we want to put on locally. So they raise millions of dollars across Canada, which is great. And plus, it gets people talking and ending the stigma, which is half the battle. Getting people to open up and talk about mental health is just as important as raising actual dollars for mental health resources. So it all circles back and comes back. So Bell Let's Talk is a huge campaign, and we're so proud to be a part of it. It's amazing.
With the understanding that you've only been in the community since September.
Yes.
So you really don't have much to compare it to. But what is your observation as to the mental health of the general population as you've seen it so far?
From what I've heard and seen in a recent study that was launched after a disaster, 1 to 3 years after is when the peak of mental health demand is. That's when people start to realize that they need help. And a lot of people don't realize that because a lot of them have settled in back to their homes and now they're feeling a little bit not themselves. They're feeling a little sad or depressed and they can't pinpoint exactly why. But it happens nationally after a disaster. It's 1 to 3 years after. So that's the period that we're in now. And we see that the demand for mental health resources is so high in our community. So that's why we're continuously growing and expanding our office, our programs, and all of our initiatives to reach those people and let them know that it's okay that they're feeling this way because they're not the only ones that feel that way.
Now, close your eyes for just a second and imagine somebody listening to this show right now. After having heard what you just said, they're thinking to themselves, you know what, that might be me. And I haven't done anything. I haven't reached out. And I'm listening to this lady on the radio from Canadian Mental Health, but I don't know what to do next. What do I do?
The first step to recovery is always talking about it, whether it's talking about it to yourself and coming to that self-realization that you need help, whether it's talking to your friends or your family or reaching out to CMHA or in your workplace or in your school. There's counselors or someone available to you. First step is always talking about it. No one is experiencing this alone, right? We are all here to help and support, and it's okay to talk about mental health. That's the message that we try to put out there time and time again. It's okay to not be okay. We can talk about mental health. It's not a negative thing. A lot of people treat a physical illness or, they break their arm and everyone talks about it, but they're not feeling great mentally. No one talks about it. So that's what the message we're trying to put out there is just to talk about it.
And it's important to note that people often wait till crisis. And then they're calling the SOS helpline.
Yes.
They're calling 911 and whatever resources they can get their hands on. But there's other folks that might be having a consistent malaise or depression or struggling. And the reason I ask is, okay, I'm hearing this story about CMHA, and what would happen if I did phone? What would that be like?
So first and foremost, it's confidential, right? So if you want to come and talk, it's not going to get leaked. It's not, excuse me, going to be publicized. So we're going to help you. We have our consumer advocate who will connect you to further resources if you need something a little bit more of intense care, or if you just want to learn how to, for example, manage your stress. We can sign you up for a stress management course. Or if you are experiencing depression or postpartum depression, example, we can connect you to the right resources. So not only can we help you in our office, but we also have the resources in the community, and we connect you to whatever you deem fit.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to be in crisis. Your organization can be a conduit to the resources that you need.
Exactly.
And you guys know you're collaborating with all the different organizations in the community.
Absolutely.
And professional resources as well.
Exactly.
And so that number, is it a phone number? What's the best way to get in touch with CMHA?
So you can call CMHA at 780-753-1053. Or you can search us on Google. All of our contact information is on there. We're on social media, all the main channels. You can always reach out there as well.
Talk about your team. How many people are in the office now?
We are growing. I think this past month we've added 2 members. So we are at, I believe, 9, but don't count. Like,
That's almost
I
a football
don't remember.
team.
I know, right? So we're growing. We're expanding. We're growing. We just added another office in our Unifor building. So not only is it that main office that you were at recently, we also added one around the corner. So we are growing very rapidly.
Thank you for reminding me. CMHA is located in what us old-timers remember as the Sportswise building, but it's now the Unifor building, local 707. They are in the basement. So to get to it, you come in the door, you go to your left, and there's an elevator there. You get in the elevator and you go down to the basement.
Yes, absolutely.
Painting a picture. It's very important.
Yes, very vivid.
Speaking of which, we're almost out of time, but tomorrow night is the Valentines painting workshop and chocolate buffet, thanks to Stacks and champagne and music. And there's room. We'd love to have you. If you haven't made your Valentine's night plans, or if you just want to come out and paint and have a lovely evening, we are going to be painting an owl tomorrow night.
It'll be fun.
And to get to that and get a ticket, Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, yeah. And our links are up on our social media and our website, so you can always check there as well.
Yeah. Jasmeen, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
And keep up the great work, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow.
Jasmeen Toor has been my guest. She is the marketing manager and community education strategist. See, I had it written down, and I showed it off, but I got it. She's relatively new to the community, but just diving in and doing a terrific job. Thank you for listening to Impact. It's a team effort, as always, of our friends at United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, YMM Magazine, and here at 91.1 The Bridge.